What is going on, guys? And thank you for entering the chamber once again. Today, we're going to be taking a look at a new deck from the most recent set, Mono Red Son Gohan. Real quick, before we get started, if you want to get a fancy custom leader, just like the one we're going to be showcasing today, you can check that out at Davidson TCG. They do excellent quality. I mean, like, just look at that for a second. It's beautiful. They do excellent quality. Custom leaders, they come in this nice side sleeve. You can get them in white or black. Really neat. We're going to be using them for the rest of the profile. That out the way. Gohan is a basically monocolor arrival deck where you use Skeleses and a couple other cards to make like free combos, and then pull out. You have effectively a rival target, so you have only one color in your battle area. We're going to go over deck strengths, weaknesses, the usual stuff, and inclusions. That all the way. Let's get the show on the road. Starting with the leader and the leader's actual strengths. So, Son Gohan is a warrior of Universe 7. We don't really use that trait very much. You could look at using. There's a couple of Roshi negates that are okay, but for our purposes, we don't really use it. So the fact he's a warrior Universe 7 doesn't matter. But what we care about is his auto, that whenever you combo a U7 card, you draw a card. We abuse the crap out of that in this deck. You're going to trigger that ability almost every turn, on both players' turns. You awaken at 4 lives or less, or if you have a 2-drop unison out, or a 2-cost spec unison out, you become Son Gohan, the Power of Duty. You have the same auto on this side, but you also get 2 new ones. So first you get a Spirit Boost option to give a red U7 Skillet 6k combo power. Defensively, that's kind of like making a Skillet into a 15k against like a lot of attacks. So you can go like, you can defend against tall swings really easily in this deck, just because of that Spirit Boost option. And then he has another auto that when one of your unisons leaves the field, you can play a Skillet, which allows you to usually get like free card advantage because you can like combo it off at, or you can use it as a beater. The choices are really up to you. Okay, and to get this show on the road, we're going to start with 4 copies of Son Gohan Ultimate Essence. So Essence is basically our combo enabler. We have a lot of skills cards that we're going to combo during a game and fetch back, and Gohan turns those combos into card advantage for us, since we also get to draw off our leader auto, and then we'll get a draw off of his auto. Plus, he's a searcher for basically the entire deck. Almost all of our cards are either U7s or 2-drop unisons, or they're Universe 7s. So he really just, like, when you play him, he checks top 5 for like almost any card. You can't miss with this guy. It's almost impossible. Now, I mentioned we run a bunch of Skilleses. There's not a whole lot to say here. We play 4 Goku. Here, we'll do it this way. We play 4 Goku and 3 Piccolo. These guys, they're basically just here to be targets. They don't do much on their own. I mean, they're Skilleses, you know. But we also play 5 copies of, well, technically 4 of Android 18 and 17 and 1 of Android 18, but really this is 5 copies of Universe 7 Challenger. This card says if you have exactly just 1 Skillet U7 in your combo area, when you combo with it, you draw a card. So you can combo with this guy, draw off your leader, combo this card and draw a card, and keep your hand like at parity, and get the 2 cards you need in your combo area for your arrival. That's why we play 5. I almost want to bump this actually up to 6, because you really do need, this really is like the way that you can bring out and arrive like all of your plays effectively. Alright. Now, technically we don't play any cards with Arrival. They just have Arrival-esque effects. So we're going to start with Son Goku Divine Presence. Presence can be played as an activated battle for 2 energy if you have 2 red combo cards in your combo area. When he comes down, he gives anything on your side of the board a 5k boost. So you could use this on your leader to make him basically like unassailable. You can use this to like help protect a unison temporarily. If you do that, remember if they take a marker off the unison, it'll reset to 15. Or you could just use it on himself if you play him on offense. Really flexible card. When he attacks, he also gets a 5k boost off for himself, and then you get to search a Skillet from your deck to your hand. Because of the unison we play, which we'll talk about later, you should always have a constant stream of unisons to play and work with. all around just like a really, really good card. Our other arrival, and kind of a removal for the deck, is Surprise Attacks on Gohan, and we play one copy of him. Now, Gohan's interesting in that he arrivals for 1 energy and gives something -10, which on its own isn't usually enough to kill anything, but we have a couple other ways to reduce card power, and even the situations where you can't kill something on its own, if you swing into a card that's in rest mode, let's say it's like 30k and you swing with your leader, so you're at 15, you put 2 cards in your combo area to go to 25, and then you bring this guy out and you reduce the enemy card down from 30 to 20. Now you're at 25 and the opponent's at 20, and if they combo to save it, Gohan's also at 20 and can hit it a second time afterwards. Really brutal, really nasty. Kind of a rival. We also play 1 copy of Frieza, Fairweather Fiend. Fairweather Fiend is he doesn't actually arrival, he plays after you combo him, but he's an honorary arrival for 2 energy. He's a decent double strike body with an auto that if our opponent ever activates a counter, we get to remove basically any 1 card ignoring barrier from inside the board. So there's matchups where he's really good, obviously with the other control matchups, but some games this card never comes up. You could probably cut him if you wanted to, or move him over to the sideboard. I think you want to lose 1 or 2 copies somewhere in your main board and sideboard. But he's not bad. Let's talk unisons. The main unison for the deck is a full playset of Frieza, Unlikely Savior. So, Savior's auto to reduce something's power when you Spirit Boost is a really good way in conjunction with Gohan to actually start like removing troublesome threats. You know, like 15-20k body, like 15-20k bodies. You can just remove them on the spot. Obviously only on your own turn, because it does check for it to be just on your turn. But it's a nice upside if you need to like remove a threat. There's +1 to return a skill list from your drop area to the bottom of your deck. You generally don't want to start using it until you have 3 more skill lists in the bottom of your deck. The reason for that is you want to make sure you always have at least 1. And if you have 2 and you return, put 1 on the bottom, leave yourself 1 left, and this unison dies, you'll play that last skill list out and have none left in your drop area. If your opponent bounces or spins that back to the deck or warps it or something, now you have none in the drop area. You always want to try to leave yourself with 1 for like future Friezas. Just as like kind of like a rule of thumb, just to be safe. You're just covering edge scenarios, but these things do happen. His main use is, I almost forgot, his auto. Also important, he has an auto that when your opponent attacks, you get to move a skill list from your drop area into your combo area, which is really powerful on defense because it allows him to go up to 20 against a single swing. And you'll draw not only from your leader, but if you have an essence out, you'll draw from your ultimate essence as well. So that's like a hard +2 for you if you have both this out if your opponent swings into it. So a lot of your card draw actually comes on your opponent's turn from them attacking into you, which is kind of interesting. Our backup unison is Piccolo Jr. He almost doesn't need an introduction. He's a really, really powerful, good card. +1 draws a card. You don't really use the board wipe, but you could. He plays off at 3 or less, so your Skeletons will be like your biggest valid targets. And you know, if you wipe everything from 20k or less, that's a good way to clear like a wide board, which sometimes that comes up. But really, he's just here for his auto to punish your opponent if they play a counter, and his +1 to draw a card. He's just our backup unison. He's quite good. You might want to find a way to bump him up to 3 just for consistency. We've got him at 2 right now, because again, both him and Savior are searchable off of Essence. Going over other unison stuff, we play 3 copies of Merciless Barrage. There's not a whole lot to say about Merciless Barrage at this point. It's counterplay, reduces healings by 15k. Really good in conjunction with Surprise Attack Gohan, because once they're already at -15, if they try to commit to a battle, the -10 will just completely remove them. So he's good for setting up like your other plays. He's good for defense. Like he's just an all-around good card. By a similar token, we also play 2 copies of Wolfang Fist. Again, same thing. Reduces one thing by 15k. Kind of the same purpose as Barrage. or we reduce these things by 10k here, 15k here, and then you surprise attack to take the last little bit off and remove threats at combat speed. This deck is kind of a mid-range deck. It's really close to an aggro deck. It's like right on the cusp of being between like an aggro and mid-range deck. A lot of the advantage and removal tools and the fact that it doesn't have to take its own life push it into mid-range, but just barely. A lot of your games, you're not removing threats, you're just killing your opponent. But it's important to note that you have a lot of options to remove stuff in the games when you need to. King Pick, a new ruler. I mean, he's limited to 1 for a reason. He's basically like a free overrealm, 20 double strike, can't be blocked, beefy, doesn't cost any energy. You get 1 use out of him, he goes. He's a good surprise for pushing for game or just pushing for damage. Alright, into our other 1-0s, we play 1 copy of Broly Crown Retribution. I would side at least 1 more, if not 2 more copies, because there are some decks that are super reactive, and they don't like spending their energy on their turn, and Crown is incredible against those. But since we're usually on the aggressive and not trying to play super long to get underneath those reactive decks, we just run 1 as a thing we can play on the turn when we're going for the kill. Good card, checks our opponent's hand, can take out a floodgate or super combo, you know, lets us know how likely it is we're going to get the kill if we go in for game. Great card. 1 copy of Surprise Attack Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta. This guy comes out for free if you activate Spirit Boost off your leader, and generally speaking that's going to be coming off of your Unlikely Savior. So if you activate Spirit Boost, you can play him, and you'll get to reduce something by 10k. Vegeta on his own is a 15k critical, which is good for just pushing for damage and denying our opponent a bit of resources over a game. Like I said, we're very aggressive, so we have some ways to cheat things out for free. Like this card, Piccolo, all of our rivals are very cheap, and we're really just trying to constantly slam cards into our opponent until they die. And Vegeta's just a way for us to Spirit Boost and get like an extra like 1-use striker in on top of that. Our next 1-of that we play is 1 copy of Bardock Fighting Its Fate. I might want to swap this out for Secret Identity Masked Saiyan, because the only difference really is dual attack versus like the second attack versus removal. And the attack is useful for obviously, but the removal is relevant too. And we already make a lot of swings in this deck, so sometimes the dual attack isn't enough. Or I should say, it's not that's not enough. It's just not needed. But for now, we're on Fighting Against Fate. He's just a 25 dual attacker. Warps your whole drop area. You just play him when you're going for game. Now, you've probably noticed at this point that we play a lot of single strikes. Our only double strike source is Fairweather Fiend and Piccolo. We don't have a lot of ways to actually like do multiple points of damage at once. So we actually play 2 copies of Champa, because sometimes you need 2 Champas to close out a game. Since we go wide and make a lot of swings, and most of them are high power but low quality. You know, they're just like single strikes. No double, no triple, no critical, no fancy, no nothing. Like, so we actually run 2 Champa to help A, make sure we see it when we need it, and B, sometimes you just need 2 in the level grind of your decks to really push for game. Talking defense, we play a full playset of testing the opposition. Opposition's really good in our deck because our leader sets himself to 5 life when we play Unison, and you can then use the blocker to pull your opponent into the defense step, because they're going to swing at your Unison to try to get rid of it. So the blocker token can pull yourself into the defense step, where you can then like use your arrivals and whatnot, or you can just use it to eat 2 attacks as intended. So either way, this card's great. Our floodgate of choice is King Vegeta's Imposing Presence. Presence reduces an attacking card by 10k and reduces everything else by 5 for the rest of the turn, which pairs really nicely with a lot of our like spot removal and other reduction effects. It makes it very tough for our opponent to actually swing in, and if they do, it makes it very dangerous for them to combo heavily into a attack. You can activate it by discarding card for life as a 3 or less, and sometimes that comes up, especially if you're playing like a really aggressive deck. You might actually find yourself needing to use this sooner rather than later. But yes, this is our floodgate of choice. Plus, the -5 pairs nicely with our other reductions. All we got left is super combos and SCR. Our super combo for the deck, we played 2 Backbone and U7, 2 copies of Raditz. I really like Raditz because, I mean, this whole line of super combos is incredible. And most people are on 4 of this, but I actually like a couple copies of Backbone too, not only because you can use him at 5 life, which sometimes is relevant, but also for the fact that he's a U7, which means he's searchable, and will trigger your leader ability. And sometimes you don't have anything else you want to like burn in your hand on defense, and being able to use a super combo and draw off the combo and your leader ability to just like get an extra card and get out of a swing, like, is quite useful at 5 lives. I might want to go to 3 Raditz and 1 Backbone, but for now we're on a 2-2 split. Now, SCR for the deck, you have a few options that you could play. Obviously, Gohan and Harem's Lineage are available, but big shock, we play Supreme Kai. Kai's, I mean, she almost needs no introductions. She wipes the board clear, removes the unisons, stops her opponent from swinging with leader in unison as well, so she's useful a bit on defense. Big 40k attacker on offense. You know, you can play her for 1, put a Champa on her, choose 50 double, your opponent's going to take that damage. Not bad for 2 energy. Wipe their board afterwards. Yeah. She's in a lot of deck profiles for a reason. Alright. That covers our deck. It's 54 cards. It's a little steep, but we draw and cycle so much with this leader that it's not the end of the world. We're going to spend a few minutes now and talk about things you can do if you're playing against U7. One of the first things to note is that there's a couple other leaders, mainly Starter Vegeta, the Pride of the Saiyans leader, that can play this archetype too, this whole U7 combo shenanigans. And so one of the things to watch out for is Ultimate Essence. If you see your opponent play Ultimate Essence, you immediately need to be thinking about, at minimum, Divine Presence as a threat that they're going to have somewhere in their deck. And we're going to talk more about what you can do against this card later and how you should kind of play around it. But if you see that they are playing Essence, killing it should be your highest priority, whether you're playing Gohan or somebody else, because he's simply creates a lot of passive card advantage. Every time they combo skills, it's effectively drawing a card. So this will add up really fast if you're not careful. So clear Essence ASAP. A lot of decks will have 1-drops like this, and again, same consistent devices, always clear them right away. This is a thing that'll only come if you're playing with just U7. If you see this combination of cards, be careful about if you choose to attack at all, because your opponent's going to gain a lot out of that swing. Like if you swing with, like, let's say like your leader who's at 15, right? They're going to get to combo a Skillless. Sorry, one sec. Let's find a Skillless actually. They're going to combo a Skillless and go to 20. So already get the combo cards, and they're going to draw a card for their leader and draw a card for Essence. So they get 2 cards and they're at 20. So you're probably going to bounce, although you could put a card behind it to get the marker anyways. But now you've lost a card. I guess you drew a card 2 for your leader, so you broke even. You grant the marker off, but they got to draw 2 cards out of it. That's like a bad exchange, unless you're then going to go on and actually like make more swings at the unison to kill it. If you just like remove that marker and pass, you broke even and gave them 2 cards for no gain. I mean, like, you got the marker off, but that's all you did. I mean, you're still back at square one. That's a terrible exchange for you. So don't swing into their unison, especially if it's or specifically Frieza, unless you're going to kill it that turn, or you get something really crazy out of it, or you get to enter the offense step and you really need to get there to like make some rivals or something like. But if you're not getting a lot of value out of attacking, then just don't do it. You're better off just not drawing the card and not giving your opponent like 2 card draws. It's just not worth it. And finally, we're going to talk a bit about Presence, which I just put away. Presence is a really good boss monster, and he has an annoying permanent that says that he basically can't be interacted with by most forms of removal. And specifically, he can't be removed from the battle area on your turn. On the opponent's turn, he's easy enough to remove, but if you're being attacked by Divine Presence, you can't interact with him, unless you're playing yellow and you can Vegeta's on a flash. or you can somehow give him like 25 or 30k power reduction to kill him. Those are the two ways to remove him. Otherwise, you're going to have to take the damage, because he's going to be too big at 25 or 30 and you can't deal with it. But there's a couple things you can do. First, consider hard casting your negates to save the life total. Because he only does 1 point of damage at a time, it's usually not worth taking a life on a sparking negate to stop your opponent from getting to the combat step, because you're going to take that damage anyways. Unless you're worried about them arrivaling out like 2 more of these things or something. Alternatively, blocking's an option, but realistically, if you see, like, especially this leader, but also Ultimate Essence, realize that they're going to have this card, and you should just kind of plan around probably having to take a lot of your damage from this card's swings, because they're beefy at 25. That's a lot, like base 25, 30 the turn that they play it if they want to. They can give him the 5k as well from when he gets played, and he pumps himself 5, so 30 dual attack, like, that's just a lot to get out of. You're probably taking the damage there. Obviously, you could play like a Floodgate, or you could like hardcast like a Testing the Opposition, Homicidal Clones. That's also like an option that you have. But if you don't have like a tool like that available, fight around the other damage that your opponent's going to try to deal to you that turn, and let Presence happen. Presence is very hard to deal with and fight over, so you generally don't want to like take that challenge unless you're one of like a small handful of decks that can like negate his skills or reduce his power to 0, even if he's like beefy at like 30. But in general, you're not going to get around Presence until it's your turn. Once it's your turn, you can remove Presence without effort. That permanent is only allowed on 1 turn, and then he's just like a 4-drop 20k, so he dies to like almost every form of removal. But that's going to complete our deck profile. Hopefully you found this useful and learned a couple things about Universe 7. It's a really good archetype. We're seeing people mess with it in other decks, and it's going to be a red staple engine for the foreseeable future. With that, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, follow, and subscribe. And until next time, once again, thanks for entering the chamber.